have before us Dr. Sudha Seshayyan, the participants who will be presenting you a clear picture, who will give you the clear picture of what COVID-19 is. And at the end of this seminar, all of you all can ask questions, but ensure that there is no confusion because I'm working with a very limited network. I will not be able to control your unmute and mute. So kindly mute yourself or raise your hands or you message me so that I will be able to give you an interact session with the doctor. Now I would ask Mr. J. Ravindran to start the meeting. Sir?
I welcome you all. Good evening. I welcome you all to this e-seminar. Today's seminar is to be addressed by Dr. Sudha Seshayyan, the Vice Chancellor of Tamil Nadu from MGR Medical University. In a short while, she will be on the video screens. Please bear with us. In 1 or 2 minutes, she'll be there on the screen.
Good evening. Can I start, Mr. Ravindran?
I welcome you, ma'am, for this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for accepting my invite, ma'am. You have much valuable time now, but in spite of that, you have dedicated time to us. I'm so much thankful, ma'am. You can now. I invite you, ma'am. You can start, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravindran, and thanks very much to all the organizers for asking me to be with you this evening to say a few things about the pandemic that we are in. Many of us have heard this term COVID-19, coronavirus, novel coronavirus, and many things. I'm sure many of you are aware of what I would be discussing with you now. Nevertheless, I thought we could just go through some details about this pandemic. I have a few slides to be shown so that we understand the pandemic a little better. Now, COVID-19 is the name of a disease. I would request Mr. Vijay Kumar to share these slides along. So let's take a journey on the details of this pandemic. COVID-19 is a disease caused by the virus called the SARS-CoV-2. This disease was declared a public health emergency of international concern on the 30th of January 2020. Of course, a little later, about 45 days later, it was also declared a pandemic, and right now the globe is undergoing the pandemic, and most parts of the globe have been hit by this disease. Now, this leads us to the question as to what this virus is or what this disease is. Many of you would have heard the term novel coronavirus. When the pandemic started, I think most of our telephonic messages were also talking about novel coronavirus. Now, coronavirus is a family of viruses. This family of viruses can cause diseases in the human beings and animals too. Now, many of the diseases that this coronavirus group causes are very mild, just about a sore throat or some flu-like symptoms, influenza-like illnesses, and so on. But then the same corona family can also cause very serious illnesses like the SARS and the MERS. SARS is an acronym for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, and MERS is an acronym for Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. If you look at the screen there, you would be able to see the electron micrograph of a coronavirus. It has been called the corona primarily because there is something like, you find lots of spikes, and if you look at it, just at the heck of it, as you look at it, it appears as though the virus has some kind of a crown. Corona is the term to indicate a crown, and this group of virus was named after the electron micrographic picture it gives us. The next slide. Now, the coronavirus group, as I told you, it's a big family of viruses which usually causes mild diseases, but also caused the SARS and the MERS. The next slide.
Ma'am, excuse me. Excuse me, ma'am. I am the host here. We are not able to view the slides, ma'am.
Vijay Kumar, can you do something about it? Ma'am, can you check your screen share there?
Yes, yes, I have given you the option to share the screen, but the screen is very blank, ma'am.
Vijay Kumar, can you check on that? Few seconds, ma'am. Let Vijay Kumar.
Sure, ma'am.
What do you think, Vijay Kumar, I should go from this? Yeah, you're starting to share the content, yes. No, don't go to that thing. You go only to the PPT. The other one is blocking, I suppose. You go only to the PPT. Yeah. Now can you see?
No, ma'am. No, we are not able to see the screen.
No, ma'am, we are not able to see the screen, ma'am.
The screen is blank. Now, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I can move to the slideshow, Vijay Kumar. Like, move to the slideshow. Yeah, move to the slide. You're on the pan. You go to the slideshow. Fine. Yes, ma'am. Can you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, these are the things that we were talking about. I think we went through all this. What a coronavirus is, all that. Can we move to the next one?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely, ma'am. You can move to the next one.
Yes, Vijay Kumar, you will have to move. No, don't operate both together. Yeah. Right. Next. Please move to the next. Yes. I think this is where we got a little disconnected. Coming back, I thought I'll just say a few things about the SARS and the MERS for us to get a complete picture as to what we should do with regard to COVID-19. SARS-CoV was the disease that humans got infected with for the first time in 2002. The epidemic broke out in China again. And till this day, we are not very sure as to where the virus came from. It is a guesswork that the virus that caused SARS-CoV came from the bats, and through the civet cats, it probably gained entry into the human world. And it became a global outbreak in 2003 when it affected about 26 countries. But thankfully, after 2004, there had been no major outbreak of SARS-CoV-2. Of course, there had been 3 small outbreaks, but of the 3, 2 were from laboratory transmission. The importance here is SARS-CoV-1 has no vaccine until now. The next slide. and that's about the MERS-CoV. We call the virus again MERS-CoV. This was identified in Saudi Arabia in 2012. And as you can see, this is again an animal virus, a zoonotic disease, a disease which spreads from animals to human beings. And it is thought that the camels, especially the dromedary camels, could be the reservoirs for lodging this virus. And this disease had been called the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, primarily because most of the patients were from the Middle East. Of course, 27 countries were affected, but then most of it was in the Middle East, and no vaccine till now, even for MERS-CoV. The next slide. Now we come to SARS-CoV-2. The reason why this virus was called SARS-CoV-2, you could see the similarity. Earlier, we talked about the SARS-CoV. We didn't call it one because it was the only one at that point of time. But when research was done in the months of January and February on the virus that caused the Wuhan epidemic, it was found that this virus is very closely related to the SARS-CoV-1. So this has been named SARS-CoV-2. True that we were calling it the novel coronavirus for some time, but then if you go into the history, you will find every time a new coronavirus causes a new disease, it would be called the novel coronavirus for a particular point of time, like, a temporary name. Something cannot be novel forever. So it was decided to have a new name given to this. And since the virus was very closely related to SARS-CoV, we called it SARS-CoV-2. And the disease has been called COVID-19 to indicate its coronavirus infectious disease, which was discovered in 2019. Now, one very important thing about SARS-CoV-2, which I would want you to concentrate on and look at the slide, you see the mortality rate of this SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 is much, much lower when compared to the SARS-CoV 15% and the MERS-CoV, which was at 37%. The infectivity is high. All of us, I think when she gave the introductions, she said, all of us are under the grip of the pandemic. Yes, the reason that all of us are fearing and everyone every day is thinking that somebody could be infected is because the infectivity is high, primarily because the killing power is low. Now, SARS and MERS had a much higher killing power. The idea is this: if a virus causes a very severe disease, the individual dies, then the virus cannot get transmitted to another person. So the virus also undergoes a kind of a natural death. So if the killing force of the virus is high, the infectivity is low. But then when the killing force is low, it is inversely proportional to the infectivity, and that is why we find the infectivity of SARS-CoV-2 is high. Now, one other important information that all of us would have to remember here is that this is a new virus and this is a new disease. Interestingly, it was only on the 11th of February that the International Academy for Taxonomy of Viruses named the virus, and it is on the same day that the World Health Organization gave this disease a new name. In other words, the entire history of this disease and the entire history of the knowledge of this virus is just about 6 months, and 6 months is too short time for the globe to know details about this disease. However, the disease has taken the world by a storm and all parts of the world have been affected. Now, this is just a small timeline to indicate as to how things progressed in the last 6 months. It was only on the 31st of December 2019 that China reported to WHO that there is a new disease found in their country. Of course, we heard from Wuhan that there was some kind of a respiratory problem in some patients, but It could not be subsided by known methods of treatment. There was some kind of a confusion, and China decided to report only on the 31st of December, wherein WHO confirmed in the month of January that it is a new coronavirus. So they called it the novel coronavirus. And India's first case appeared in Kerala. It was a student who came back from Wuhan on the 30th of January. And then on the 3rd of February, we had 3 cases. All of them were students from Wuhan. And for almost a month, nothing. From 3rd of February to 4th of March, it was all calm, no new cases found. But then on the 4th of March, we found 14 new cases. And all these 14 people were members of an Italian tourist group. It was on the 12th of March that India had its first COVID-19 death. It was a person who had traveled to Saudi Arabia, had contracted the disease in Saudi Arabia and came back and died in India. That was the first confirmed death in India. Then by March, you notice we had progressed by 15th March. From 12th March, when we had the first death, to 15th March, there were 100 confirmed cases in India. 28th March, it was 1,000. And 14th of April, when the first lockdown phase was coming to a close, we had 10,000 confirmed cases. And the progression had been quite fast after that. 14th of April, it was 10,000. 7th of May, 50,000 confirmed cases. 19th May, 1 lakh. And then it became 27th May, it became 1.5 lakhs, 13th June, 3 lakhs, and 27th June, 5 lakhs. And today we have progressed a little more. We are a little over 5.5 lakhs. And that is the timeline of the number of confirmed cases in India. Now, this is just a picture to show you as to how the progression had been. The absolute number of cases you find, 50,000 to 99,000. You find the color mapping, and you find Maharashtra having much more, and Tamil Nadu bordering there, like, between the 50,000 and 99,000 percentile. Next.
Madam, excuse me.
Yeah.
Again, we are not able to see the screen sharing. He has stopped the screen sharing, so we are not able to see the map.
Okay. Something wrong, Vijay Kumar? Even I'm not able to get the screen, Vijay Kumar. I'm looking at the TV screen and speaking.
We are able to see you, ma'am, but not the screen sharing. The screen sharing has been stopped.
Okay. Yes, can you do something, Vijay Kumar? I think, yeah, people would not be interested in seeing my face. Get the pictures on.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Yeah. Right. So you find, I think this is the picture we were in. The next picture. So that is to indicate the number of active cases. What that you see there now, the yellow and the orange and the maroon, are the number of active cases in each of the states. You find Tamil Nadu having a little over 25,000, and so on. Now, the reason that I projected these statistics and these two pictures before we move to the next slide, when you look at these pictures, I think the pictures have again gone, Vijay Kumar. You probably retain only the pictures. Don't go to the other screen at all. Yeah. Okay. Right. When you look at the pictures, when you look at the maps that I have projected, I think many of you would be getting a little scared, thinking, oh God, we are progressing so fast and things like that. My God, India is the numbers increasing, and where are we going? What's happening? And that kind of a panic reaction has already set in. Now, please go to the next picture, Vijay Kumar. Not that. You have another map there. A large map. Yeah, the global map. Yeah, that's it. Can you see that picture, ma'am? All of you? Not that.
No, ma'am. The screen is not.
The screen is global. Yeah, that's it. Can you see that picture, ma'am? All of you? I cannot. I can only look at most of your faces.
Yes, ma'am. It is started.
Yes. Right. Now, when you
Right.
when you
Now,
look at,
when you look at,
I think a lot of echo. Somebody's
echo, is,
there's a delay. Yeah, can people hear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Fine. See, when you look at this map, you find many of the areas are light in shade, and if you go to the legend, just look at it, less than 20, you find very light color, okay? And you find India is in that less than 20 area. So earlier picture, it was very alarming. Now, what is this? This is what is called a moving data, or the moving notification number, as we call it. In the last 14 days, how many COVID-19 cases have been notified from India? This was a picture as on 26th of June, not very long ago, and the statistics has not changed much. I thought I project this to you because we still are one of the countries where the incidence of COVID-19 is much low when compared to the population. You could see it says per lakh population. So per lakh population, we've just had about 17.5 cases. The other countries, you could see what's happening in the South American countries, what's happening in United States of America, even in the Middle East, you find they're all more number of cases. The thing is, we are trying to compare our numbers, subconsciously, when we hear the news bulletins, when we hear the numbers being told, we are trying to compare the numbers to the numbers given from other countries, which is not a correct kind of a comparison. Absolute numbers will not be the right instrument to compare, because a country which has much less population, it is the percentage that matters. So as far as India is concerned, which is a very largely populous country, we still find, even just about 2 days ago, and the statistics has not changed much even today, it is about 17.5 COVID cases per lakh population that gets notified in a period of 14 days.
Ma'am, sorry to interfere. We would like to, again gone, because now you say it's only 17.5%. All of us would be happy if we would see it visually, madam, and feel assured that we are progressing in the right direction. Yes, ma'am, again it's come.
Right. I think there is some kind of a fluctuation. That's what Vijay Kumar tells me, like, it keeps moving. I don't know why. And anyhow, let's hope and pray for, maybe it's got the COVID confusion itself. Right, we move to the next slide. Vijay Kumar, please move to the next one. Yeah, right. Now we come to the situation, like the background information is already there. The background statistics that our country has been progressing well, though the numbers have been, to hear the numbers had been a little scary. But then what can we do at this stage? One thing, take it from me, the lockdown that this country had helped break the chain. If we compare ourselves with some of the European nations, including, if not technically, including the United Kingdom, India went into the lockdown mode much early in the pandemic. As far as the pandemic in this part of the country was concerned, in this part of the world was concerned, we moved into the lockdown mode much early, and the lockdown has helped us. The lockdown has helped us bring down the number of deaths, which would have been probably in lakhs to thousands. That is the basic truth, hardcore truth that we will have to understand. Now, this virus until now has no drug, no clear vaccine, and the only resort that we have is to help in the prevention of transmission. Now, you see the picture of the virus there. You could see the spikes. You could see those pink projections. Those are called the spikes, which give the corona appearance, which give the crown-like appearance. And then you find there is another cover, an envelope to the virus, and internally you find some long structures. That is the genome or the genetic material of the virus. Now, one important word here regarding the genetic material of the virus, this is an RNA virus. Many of you would have heard this. The genetic material can be basically classified into two groups, the RNA and the DNA. The viruses can also be into the RNA viruses or the DNA viruses, depending upon the genetic material that they have. The coronaviruses are RNA viruses. Now, what is significant about the RNA viruses? RNA viruses are capable of changing themselves frequently. They keep on mutating. Small mutations occur. Maybe these small mutations are not very important at this stage. They don't become a big strain, but then these small mutations are significant because that is why it is always difficult to find a vaccine or a drug for an RNA virus. If you remember SARS-CoV and MERS-CoV, I told you no vaccine until now. 2002, we had SARS. From then, we have not been able to find a vaccine until now, primarily because the RNA virus does not yield itself to being combated by a vaccine that easily. Can we move to the next slide? Yes. Now, how does this spread? How does COVID-19 spread? I'm reminded of the Tirukural where it says, Noi Nadi, Noi Mudal Nadi. So unless you know how it spreads, it's very difficult to prevent its spread. The most important way of spread is only one, which is human to human transmission. The virus is transmitted from human to human, not from human to animal or from animal to human. Nothing happens to your pets. The dogs are fine, the cats are fine, nothing wrong if you move with your pets, you cajole your pets, nothing is wrong. But then human to human is the route of transmission. There is also another route of transmission which is minor when compared to the human to human transmission, which is fomite transmission. So what do we mean by this human to human transmission? I think the previous one, you'll have to move to the previous slide. Yes, that's it. Human to human transmission will mean when a person who has the virus, now please mark it, a person who has the virus, I am not talking about the disease now, a person who has the virus, if this person coughs, sneezes, speaks, or touches some surface, this person could be shedding the virus. This is a technical term we say. A person who has the virus, infected with the virus, will be shedding the virus. Where all can the virus be shed? From all body surfaces and in all body fluids. Now, the body fluids with which somebody else can come in contact would be the salivary droplets when the individual coughs or sneezes or speaks. The other body fluids, it is not easy for another person to come in contact with. So this is the primary area where we need to concentrate. And that is why we say, please be careful when you cough, when you sneeze, or when you speak. So during this kind of a transmission, like supposing I lodge the virus and I speak to you, standing next to you. When I speak, I throw the virus and a big chunk of viral droplets of saliva which lodge the virus will be thrown at you. And if I speak also, please remember the speed with which the virus would be shed when I speak will be the same as that of the viral shed if I sneeze. So you cannot think sneeze is very powerful and speaking will be very, very less powerful. It is the same. So the major route of transport is human to human. The other transmission route is, of course, touching contaminated surfaces. Now what happens? That is where this fomite comes. Fomite is some intermediary medium between one human being and another human being. Now what happens? I sneeze. Let me say I'm sitting here, just in front of me is a table, and as I speak, I would be shedding the virus. And these viral droplets will be falling on the computer, which is in front of me, on the table in front of me, and of course on the books and papers that I have. If anyone else happens to touch this table, anyone else happens to touch the computer, the droplets could still be there, the virus could still be alive, and the virus would get onto your fingers. And incidentally, after touching this, you go and keep your fingers on your eyes or your mouth without washing, then the viral droplets can get into your respiratory tract. Now, how does the virus get into one's body? Again, the virus gets in through what are called mucous membranes, not through the skin, mind you. It does not go through the intact skin, but it goes through those surfaces which are called the mucosa. And where do you have the mucosa? Mucosa lines your oral cavity, mucosa lines your nasal cavity, and there is also some mucosa in your eye, the conjunctiva in your eye. So the major routes of entry will be either the oral cavity or the nasal cavity. When you breathe in, you take the viral droplets inside, and that gets into the respiratory tract. Either it goes through the nose or the mouth, both of them join there in the throat. So it goes into the respiratory tract. I also can be a point of entry sometimes. That is why we say don't touch your eyes also with contaminated hands. So human to human transmission is the most important, of course, with a secondary fomite transmission. And this fomite, now what happens, you may ask me. Let's please visualize what would be the situation. Let me go back to the same example. I sneeze or I speak, I shed the virus. You're standing next to me. If you breathe, you can take the virus in. Now let us say you're not standing next to me. I'm alone here. I sneeze. What happens? The droplets have come into the air, but then they remain in the air. They float in the air just for about few minutes. After about 10-15 minutes, they drop down because of the weight, because of the viral particle in the salivary droplet. The droplets drop down. They drop down and go and settle at the earliest horizontal surface available. It could be the floor or it could be the table, wherever, whichever surface is available, it goes and settles there. So there is no danger if you come to the same air after about 15-20 minutes. It's not going to be floating in the air, but then it would have settled onto the surface, which is the fomite. So that is one good thing. If the virus was traveling in the air, it would be a difficulty. If it keeps traveling, then there's no way that we can control. It does not travel in the air. The droplets don't travel in the air. They settle down. And how much distance can the droplets go? The maximum distance is about 5 feet. If I speak from here, somebody is just about 5 feet away from me, the droplets can go for 5 feet, but then not beyond. That is the reason we say stay away by 6 feet. Give a distance of 6 feet. Please move to the next slide, Jayakumar. Now this is a picture. I'm deliberately putting this picture. Now see this, somebody is coughing, sneezing, and the droplets coming. Now please don't go by all the numbers that are given in very many pictures. The reason I put this is, there is so much of information. I would call it infodemic, something like an epidemic. You have so much of infodemics coming in. Please don't bother about all that information that's coming in. We still do not have the last word. The reason, everywhere there is some work going on, but all this work is partial. Say, for example, we cannot work on the virus now. In India, right now, we cannot work on the viral sample. The reason, when a pandemic is on, the regulatory agencies put a ban on direct working on the virus, because something happens, some accident, the virus can spread from there. So whatever work that's going on all over the globe is all kind of, some in silico studies, some clinical trials, and it's too early to predict. How long will the viral droplet remain? There have been people who have been asking, can I touch the newspaper? Can I touch the cardboard? Can I touch the plastic? Can I touch my spectacles? And so on. The last word had not been said on this. It's all anybody's guess. Some studies indicate the viral droplets remain alive on a plastic surface for about 24 hours, on a wooden surface for about 4 hours, on a kind of copper vessel for about just about 40 minutes and so on. But all this is not very clear. So don't go by all those information. Make sure that you don't touch a fomite surface, a possible fomite surface. And if you happen to touch, please sanitize or wash your hand. That will be the easiest approach than to go by all these numbers and data. Next slide. Now, who can transmit? That is the most important again. Who can transmit? A carrier of the virus can transmit. What do I mean by saying a carrier? If I have the virus, if I'm infected with the virus, I become a carrier. I have the virus inside me. I can be shedding the virus wherever I go. Now, one important thing about SARS-CoV-2, which we saw as we started, it has a high rate of infectivity, but its killing power is much less. What do I mean by saying so? Let's say 100 people get infected with SARS-CoV-2. All 100 of them do not develop COVID-19 disease. 80% of the people who have been infected, in other words, 80 of the 100 people who have been infected will be asymptomatic. They will have no disease. They will show no symptoms of the disease. They will be perfectly normal for all appearances. The remaining 20 people may show some signs and symptoms. Somebody might have a cough, a sneeze, a fever for 2 days, or just a kind of a sore throat for 2 days, or some kind of, not very comfortable feeling, very, very minimal symptoms. Influenza-like symptoms, we even call it ILI, which means influenza-like illness. Of these 20, 15 will get settled in the next 1 week's time, maybe 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, maximum by 7 days, they'll be all right. Nothing wrong. They'll get back to work. It is only about 5 to 6 people who land in the hospital with severe illness. The calculation that we have had in India indicates of the 15 people who have shown symptoms, it is about 0.5% or 0.5 individual who would require a ventilator. About 2.4 people would require high flow oxygen, and 2.4 people would require an intense care treatment, which means between 5 and 6% of the individuals who get infected with the virus will have necessity for an intense care treatment, for an admission into a hospital, for some kind of drugs and serious treatment to be given. The others, 15%, which will have minimal symptoms, mild to moderate, can get well with immune boosters, some kind of good food, more fluids, more air, pranayama, yoga, and a good set of mind, a mindset which is positive. They will be perfectly all right. That is why many times you hear people saying they can be home quarantined, they can be kept in a COVID care center. They don't necessarily require a treatment or a hospitalization. So the most important here in transmission is not the symptomatic person. Once a person develops symptom, all of us tend to keep away from that person. And it is only the asymptomatic carrier who is important. The asymptomatic person does not reveal any symptoms and could be what is called a super spreader. Now, a symptomatic person can spread the disease, but then we tend to keep away from them, so they are not super spreaders. Asymptomatic, we know nothing. We keep talking to them, we go close to them, we are proximal to them, we increase the proximity. So they can be super spreaders, or they can be spreading the disease to all their contacts. The next slide. Now, how to prevent. When we have no clear drug, when we have no clear vaccine, the only way left is to break the chain of transmission. Now we would understand why lockdown became important. Breaking the chain, you would have to break the chain. How do we break the chain? Kind of prevent human-to-human contact. Prevent fomite contact. Why offices were asked to be closed? I have 300 and odd people working in my university. And people come with different files. Somebody who's asymptomatic could be touching the file moves up and down, it comes till the level of the VC, it goes to every officer, every official here, and many people handling many things, there could be a spread of the virus. So similarly, similar situations all over, and that is why human-to-human chain was to be broken, and that is why lockdown became very important. And there were stringent measures in implementing